All right, what's up, y'all? Welcome to The Journey. Another episode today. I'm bringing to you from the Jeep. So if you're watching this, you'll see it went pretty well last time. So I actually was able to clear my thoughts pretty well, and I actually enjoyed it. So today we're going to shoot this episode in here as well. And today I want to talk about implementation over reading. Okay, so obviously I talk a lot about learning and reading. It's very important to me. And I think there's something that needs to be included that hasn't been mentioned before. Okay. Obviously the simple task of always learning is going to be extremely paramount for the ideas and the generation of like new thoughts and progression in your everyday life. But I think super important part of that is going to be the implementation. Okay. I think a lot of people get caught up in just reading or going through the motions, but do not take the most crucial extra step. And that is actually implementing the ideas. Okay. So for instance, like you're reading a book and an idea will pop into your head and you'll think, oh, that's a great idea. And then you'll keep reading and you'll read, and you'll be like, oh, I need to remember to put that down. And you'll just keep reading. And then, 2, 3, 4 pages later, you have another idea. And that first idea then just disappears or kind of falls to the wayside. And it never gets to see the light of day. And I think that's extremely unfortunate. And so I think there is a way to actually take in information that would provide a much higher output or value if you do it this way. So anytime that I read or I'm listening to an audible, as I'm listening, I'm extremely engaged. Okay, that's a given. But as an idea pops up, instead of reading on, the hard thing to do is actually to pause the reading or to stop, flipping the pages at that time. Open your notes in your phone or pull out a piece of paper and actually write down that idea. And then let yourself go down that rabbit hole. Spend 5, 10, 15 minutes, up to an hour on this idea, whatever, just diving in, going as far as you can with that specific idea. And then from that point, so that's already miles ahead, okay? And you've actually taken some time to nurture that idea into something that could be plausible. Maybe you spend 10 or 15 minutes on it and you realize that maybe this isn't as ideal, or, maybe this wasn't the best idea to begin with. Cool. You can scrap it at that time and move on, or you can decide whether to take the next steps on it. And the next step would be actually opening up your calendar in your phone and putting a time and date that you'll be working on this specifically. Okay. Whatever, within the next 7 days, that you'll have an hour to set aside to put that idea into action, to just spend some time implementing whatever that idea was into real life, whatever that may be. Okay, and that final step is the one that matters the most, because at that point, that's when that action will become real. Like that's when you'll take that idea and you'll put it into action. And so this began for me back in college. It had to be about 10 years ago now. It was actually one of the very first courses I ever took online. It was a marketing course, but it was called Wake Up Productive. And I believe it was by Eben Pagan. But anyway, you would open it up and it was called Wake Up Productive. And it was pretty much about building out your perfect day, which I've talked about. I actually talked about in the last episode. But the nugget that I got from that I thought was extremely profound, was he was explaining something about implementation and like putting in your daily routine into habit. But he was saying the people who win are the ones who implement the fastest. And, while we were talking about a morning routine of brushing your teeth and drinking your water, that idea stuck with me for up until now. But that one, it went off into all aspects of my life, in the sense that is the only difference. The only difference between you and somebody else is you've implemented more or they've implemented more. That's the only way that's really changed the dynamic of where y'all are. How much have you learned, and then how much have you implemented? The learning is step 1. The implementation is step 2. And that takes a couple steps, and that takes practice and discipline to get from being a thinker, a dreamer, a daydreamer, to actually putting those thoughts into action. And that's something that we've all heard. Like, about just pulling the trigger and doing all that stuff. That really is just the difference between having a thought or a good idea and taking the risk and actually putting it into action. And so that thought of the implementers, the ones who implement the fastest are the ones that will win, was extremely profound. And that's how I approach all my learning. Everything that I learn, it's a race to how fast can I implement it. Okay, and that's something that I want you to take away as well and try to implement into your life. And so I forget where I was at on that. Okay, I remember. So now this is I want you to look at this kind of like a funnel. Okay, and if there's anything that you want to achieve, starting a business, learning a new skill, anything, you need to take it as a two-step process. Okay, the first step, the top layer, the biggest layer will be, how much can you learn? How much can you read on a day? How many things can you learn on any given day? And then from that point, that becomes the new baseline. Okay, so say you read for 4 hours today. And at that point, those 4 hours, that will be the maximum that you can possibly implement on. Okay, so you've got 4 hours of learning, and then how much of that learning or how much of what you just took in can you now implement? Okay, so say 100% is your learning. There's levels to where, like, you could start at 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, 50% of implementing all of those things that you learned. Okay, because there will always be some loss of knowledge along the way. But with practice, I want you to look at actually the doing of the things to be the first step is how much can you learn? And then the next skill that you can practice is how much can you implement of what you learned. Because while learning is great, unless you put it into action and actually build it out, it carries no weight. There's no power to it. There's nothing behind it. And so to give you an example of kind of how I've implemented this whole implementation process in my life, so you can get, maybe this will help paint a picture. So on any given day, I'll wake up and I'll read for a couple hours in the morning. And those ideas I either put on directly into my calendar or I'll put them onto my Google Sheets. Okay, so we've created a page for the team called our VTO. It comes from the book Traction. So that's how we set up our systems. It's a very efficient model, but it allows all of the team to look at one central location, and we can see on any given day what our 3-year plan is, what our 1-year plan is, what we need to do each quarter, and then what are our to-dos each week. And so for me in my position, this has become extremely pivotal because when I first started, every idea I had, I would have to write down and then implement it myself later on. But now any idea that I have, I'll put on that rock sheet. And each Tuesday when we have our team meeting, I have split it out to who is going to be responsible for that specific task. And so I can have a dozen different ideas, and on every given week, I can divide those up to 1 or 2 per team member, and we can now implement all of those ideas over the course of a given week. And now that's extremely powerful, because in the beginning, I would have a dozen ideas and maybe 2 or 3 of them would only see the light of day. And so I tell you this because right now it's okay if every single idea you have doesn't see the light of day. But simply getting into the practice of learning something, writing it down, and then setting a time to implement it later on will ensure that the ones that are the most important will get to see the light of day and they will get to be implemented. And so always be aware of that. As you're learning something, as you're reading something, as you're listening to something, when you have an idea, just pause it, write it down, and spend some time on that. If you don't have time, if maybe you're driving, put down that idea and what sparked that idea, and then come back and listen to it later. That's what you'll put on the calendar to go back and listen to, so that way you can try to get back into that state of mind and put down that idea. And just get into the practice of nurturing your ideas, but also implementing them, because unless you put them into action, again, they'll just die on the vine. But this one thing has been pivotal in my growth and development of the business, because, you know, when you have a job or when you're in school, the teacher or the boss always tells you exactly what to do. What's your homework? What do you need to accomplish that night? What do you need to go read? What pages to what pages? In a job, what report needs to get done? What project needs to get taken care of? And when you own a business, you no longer have that pivotal or that light that's leading you the way. There's no one pointing you in the right direction to tell you on a daily basis, what do you need to do to continue to move this business forward? So your ability to learn and then to implement will be the only thing that drives you in the progression of your business. And so this skill is monumental because you are on a daily basis the one who is telling people what to do. So if you don't develop the skill on telling and like actually figuring out what you need to learn and then what you need to get done, and constantly have those ideas and those things to implement to improve the business will stagnate. Okay, so understanding that as a business owner or leader, you need to be the one that lays out that foundation. You're the one that gives the homework. You're the one that writes out the assignments. And those assignments will only come as quick as you implement, and they'll only come the implementation will only happen as quick as you learn. I'm sorry, that came out quick, but understanding that is the final step. And so that's why it always comes back to reading, because for me, on a very personal level, the only way to improve the business is to have the team continue to do what they need to do. But the only way the team knows what they need to do is by me pointing them in direction and showing them exactly how to do the things that they need to do in order to move the needle. If we need more members, we have to backtrack all the way to how many leads we need, what's the marketing, all that stuff. Okay. And so while this may not be a super necessity for you because you may have your day planned out by somebody else, if you want to shift into a position of pure freedom and autonomy, you need to take the responsibility to start these implementations. So this is a skill that I beg you to please learn, and it will create freedom in your life. Okay. So I'm going to call it there, y'all. I think I got the point across, and, I hope this brought value to you. As always, that's the entire point of this. I have ideas, and there's many steps that I need to take. I need to sit outside my car for a few hours talking to a screen so that I can get these points to you. And then I need to market those on all my pages to make sure that you can hopefully take the chance to listen to this and it can finally get to you. Okay. So there's many steps to that implementation, from idea to actually you watching this. And so I want you to take that same care and put in that same effort to the ideas that you have, so that hopefully that they will come true and actually reach reality. So if you did find value in this, y'all, please share this with someone that you think would find value in this as well. That'll be the highest compliment you could possibly pay me. I appreciate you taking some time out on your Thursday, Friday, whenever you're listening to this, to actually take this in. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. All right, later.